Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. We're continuing our countdown until the NFL draft with our team-specific 7-round mock drafts. And today we are hitting on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are, one of the best organizations in football. They continuously find ways to win year in and year out. And they think they have what their franchise quarterback is in Kenny Pickett. They're always going to have a good defense. They have some good young players all along the offense. Let's just kind of continue that theme here with them. They got pick 17, and, I think we all know how big of a steal getting 32 for Chase Claypool really was. So the Steelers are in a good spot to kind of reap some benefits of everything and kind of continue to build the roster and get back to their truly, not necessarily winning ways because they've still been winning, but like playoff-bound, playoff success ways. And obviously, it's a mock, and everything's going to be super, super accurate. Obviously, I'm not taking Richardson, Levis, any of these guys. But the person that I don't think we've seen mocked to Pittsburgh a lot, because I think a lot of people have them drafting offensive linemen, which makes all the sense in the world. A lot of people have them drafting some corners, which, again, make all the sense in the world. But last year, truth be told, I'm not a Kenny Pickett. I wasn't the biggest Kenny Pickett guy coming into the draft last year. He looked pretty solid as a rookie. Give him his credit there. But it was a big Pittsburgh thing. I really do feel that. And, for them, luckily, there's a player at a position of need, not their biggest, but a position of need that is a very high upside pick. And he also happened to go to Pittsburgh. Kalijah Kancey can fit in with what the Steelers like to do on defense. They kind of need some defensive line help anyway. They need some extra pass rush juice. They need more options outside of TJ Watt. They had Alex Highsmith, but the interior is getting older. It's still been productive, but it's getting older, and Kalijah Kancey can kind of rejuvenize and continue to give Pittsburgh a more dominant pass rush. And that's a pick that I haven't seen floated out there all that much. So I do think there's a realistic possibility if Kancey's on the board, Pittsburgh will again want to draft another Pittsburgh guy, not just because he went to Pittsburgh, but he's also just very good, a position of need. Everything kind of works out, if we're being honest. Now, we're going to go back to more of their basic needs. We're going to take a look at some of these corners, some of these offensive linemen. And then for me, I think the corners are the better people on the board. Cam Smith's been falling a little bit for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But this is pick 32, so that's still a first-round pick most of the years, obviously with the forfeited pick. And, the Steelers have this pick because they traded Chase Claypool for, which is phenomenal to them. They're in a very good position to take it. These first 3, even 4 picks, all could be great. Pittsburgh's in a very good spot to really kind of, again, just add more talent to that team and kind of get them back to their traditional playoff successful ways. We got to continue to look at offensive tackle here. There's nobody sticking out to me. I feel like Blake Freeland feels like a Steeler for some reason. So he might be somebody I look at down here at 80. I would consider double dipping in the cornerback room, maybe give them some more speed. I don't really hate that at all either. I'm going to take a look at some of these edges that kind of could make sense for Pittsburgh. But, adding Kancey, I know he's a defensive lineman, he's your interior guy, but he's small enough to potentially kind of move outside a little bit. Bosky makes some sense. Derek Hall makes some sense for them. Andre Carter even makes some sense for them. But I don't know if they want to take another necessarily developmental guy, obviously with Kancey being that already. The idea of double dipping in the quarterback room is pretty intriguing to me when they play, in the division with the Cincinnati Bengals. They obviously have to do a lot to overcome that trio, and they just have to do a lot to overcome a lot of teams in the AFC with the secondary. So I think I talked myself into it. I'm going to go give them some speed in that secondary. DJ Turner, it's still a little early there for me. I think Pittsburgh just, they have a solid secondary just because they have a good defense, they have a good pass rush. So I think these first 3 picks, not, to be honest, not necessarily the route I was expecting to take, but you get a high upside interior pass rusher with 2 good corners, 2 athletic corners, 1 super athletic corner. Just kind of like how the board fell for them. I don't necessarily think they're gonna double dip this early, but there's totally a path to it, and the path is a guy like DJ Turner being high on the Steelers board, or maybe Julius Brents is high on the Steelers board. Whatever it is, there's plenty of opportunities for the Steelers to do that. They obviously lost some people in free agency. They still have a good defense. I'm not too worried about it, whatever, but they need to get younger. They need to get more athletic. And I think these two picks in the secondary do just that. So now again, I'm gonna look on the offensive lineman. He's still there. Blake Freeland at 80 just feels like a Steeler to me, and I know he's gonna need a little bit of development, but the Steelers kind of seem to like those guys in the offensive line a little bit. He's just really physical. He can do a lot for you. He's massive. There's a lot to like with Blake Freeland, but there's obviously some questions. That's why he's available at pick 80, ranked 89, I believe, here on the board. So just there's some upside, there's some risk, but the Steelers need some offensive lineman potential, and I think outside of the first few guys, his upside is up there with anybody in this draft. Truly, obviously, again, the floor is pretty low, but for now, I think he's a good combination of upside, gives you some versatility, and just can kind of come in and compete for a starting spot day one for Pittsburgh. I'm gonna give him some edge help here. Byron Young's a really good value. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that just because it is that really good value. Again, I think we just saw he was ranked 90, so there's a pretty good odds he won't be there. But again, it's a mock draft. We're not gonna complain about things too much unless it's super uber unrealistic. But I don't think Byron Young being there at 120 is that crazy, truth be told. But these first 5 picks for Pittsburgh, obviously, the more you want to hit on all your picks, but these first 3 especially, Pittsburgh needs to hit, and I think they will. They've drafted pretty well recently. I mean, they drafted solidly recently. When they hit, they hit. But obviously, after here, pick 120, you don't pick again for 114 picks. So obviously, you really have to make the most of your picks, obviously, every year, but especially when you have this major gap that the Pittsburgh Steelers do have. You really need to take advantage of that. Maybe they want to bridge the gap a little bit and they'll trade down from 32, 49, 17, whatever it is. They could certainly do that. But again, it's a mock. We're not going to get uberly creative with it. We're going to roll the dice with what they got and continue to just attack things. So I think the Steelers I think they could use some receiving depth, to be honest with you. There's a couple interesting guys right off the rip. Obviously, a lot of people like Bryce Ford-Wheaton. I think he's going to end up going way earlier than people think, but I think he's a pretty good fit for them. Elijah Higgins is another guy that I kind of like in Pittsburgh because he's your I'm going to draft Elijah Higgins and then explain it. So Elijah Higgins is I don't want to say he's a tight end by any means, but he's a bigger wide receiver. Over 6 foot. I believe he's around 230-ish pounds, 200, maybe even above that. But he's a big guy. He's probably slimmed down a little bit, so probably around 225, 230. But he's just a big receiver. He's not Chase Claypool by any means, but he kind of gives you that build, and they don't really have that anymore. So obviously, you traded Chase Claypool. You liked him for a reason. Get in kind of a cheaper off-brander version of him. I think makes a lot of sense, and it complements that wide receiver room well. I mean, I think Chase Claypool complemented that room well. It's just the value for pick 32 is no brainer. But I think he works well with George Pickens, obviously, in there. Deontay Johnson gives you the bigger body guy that you can kind of go to. And it's pick 234. You're trying to round out some of the rooms, take some upside, take some great fits. I think Elijah Higgins is just that. Now, again, we're picking round 7 here. There's nothing crazy to rave about or anything. I mean, I like Mo Ibrahim. He feels like a Steeler for some reason, but they're not gonna be drafting a running back. Really, I don't think. And if they do, it'd be more of a pass catching. Jalen Warren showed out pretty well. They obviously have Najee Harris. They just don't really Snell. They just don't really need nothing over there in that room. The linebacker room is pretty interesting to me too, but I think they might not be done there. I think they might go after some other free agent vets. It just depends how they feel about their team. I'm going to go look in the interior and see if there's any I'm going to give him I'm stuck between these two. These are my favorite guys that fill out drafts. I'm going to give him TJ Bass. I just like filling out people's back end of the draft, especially a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers with a versatile interior offensive lineman that can play a bunch of different positions. The Steelers need some help on the offensive line. They just need, I don't want to say necessarily they need help. They just need their guys to perform better. I think they have pretty much their core group of guys. They just need them to perform a little bit better. And adding, it's the 7th round TJ Bass, a guy that can come in and play a few different positions on the offensive line to give you that depth, to give you that competition. It's kind of like how the Steelers like to do things, and that's how, in my opinion, good organizations really like to do things. So yeah, that's a Pittsburgh Steelers team specific 7 round mock draft. I really went way more defensive heavy in the entire draft than I thought, but I think they're trying to get back to those ways. They added some Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh home guy again, just like last year with Kenny Pickett, super high upside, two uber athletic corners, and just a bunch of solid players. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They always find a way to be competitive year in and year out, and I think this draft does continue that trend. But like I said, that wraps up this Pittsburgh Steelers team-specific 7 round mock draft as we inch closer to the NFL draft. And if you don't want to miss anything NFL draft related, make sure you follow along on all TWSN social medias. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys here again on the TWSN YouTube channel soon.